When did you know it was going to be bad?
It was about the third week in March.
Okay.
We worshiped in our gym. We've been doing a renovation, so we transitioned out into the gym. And the first 2 Sundays were in March. We're in the gym. And then around the middle of the second week of March, we start getting notifications from our bishop. And then on Friday, before the third Sunday in March, we received a notification that we're not to worship on campus.
Okay. And what was that like for you and the congregation? Just
Well, it was kind of sad in 2 ways, because one, we started a new community outreach campaign together. And, we were in the process of starting to evangelize in our community for the whole month of Lent, because it was actually the Lent season.
Yeah.
So we started that Together series, and the goal was to each member of the congregation to take 10 of those invite cards and 10 wristbands and start handing them out throughout the whole community.
Okay.
And just kind of talk about the church, maybe about coming together as a community and finding ways to serve our community. So by the second Sunday, it was starting to do very well. There was a lot of excitement and momentum started for that. And then when we realized we were going to be able to gather in our sanctuary at that point, or together as a congregation, we realized that was going to come to a halt.
Yeah.
And it did. So, and then of course, our church is very close. Our members are very close. And even those who visit on a regular basis who are not members, which we have a good percent of, they're very close, and they like the fellowship. They like the camaraderie between each other and gathering. And, we get together in the morning, there's fellowship and Sunday class, and we have coffee, and we have donuts, and we just hang out. And so they're missing that.
Yeah.
So I think for our congregation, it was a huge blow to the fact that they're not going to be able to gather together in their normal traditional habits.
Yeah.
And they had to adjust to that. For me, I've always spent most of my career as a minister outside the walls of my church.
Okay.
I don't like being confined in an office, and so I always try to get out into the community anyway. So for me, one of the biggest struggles is not being able to interact and to be involved in the community. My wife is one of those high risk candidates. She is type 1 diabetic. She has an autoimmune disease. So her immune system is very weak, and so I can't afford to go out into the public or taking a chance and doing something where there's a possibility that I may contract it and not know it and become a carrier.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, it's twofold. I've lost the contact of my interactive within the community, and I love being active with the community. And being new out here, that was one of my biggest goals for an entire year, is just to be involved and impregnate myself within the body of Athens itself and all the communities in it. So for that, it wasn't that hard to transition out. We had already started pre-recording a lot of our videos on the service, and we started posting those probably back in January on Facebook. But for us, the biggest problem was this church has never really invested in equipment per se to do audio or video recordings of a good quality.
Okay.
So all we had was a $200 hand camera.
Oh no. Yeah.
Or my cell phone.
Yeah.
So the quality wasn't always that great, especially when it came to audio. Being able to hear it wasn't that good. So I think it was probably 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking about about 2 weeks ago, we decided that we were having some difficulty with the audio in the sermons in the gymnasium, because the gymnasium was empty.
Oh yeah. And
so it had extreme loud echoes. So about 2 weeks ago, the church decided to go ahead and invest into purchasing Sling hardware and a Pro camera. Okay. And that's what you saw Andrew using.
Yeah.
So he has 2 cameras now. We have a third one that we're purchasing this week. That's supposed to be arriving in the next week or so. So we'll have 3 cameras. So we'll have more of a professional quality video. My sermons have always been short. I have never been one to preach long. I don't like to hear myself preach. And I don't think people want to hear me preach more than 30 minutes anyway. So typically my sermons are 15, 20 minutes long.
Okay.
They have always been that way, and which is probably perfect as you saw Sunday, when that Friday when you were here, or Thursday when you was here, each sermon I think lasted 15 to 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to do it on video and you want people to watch you. My attention span is very quick. It's very limited. You keep me for a good 5 to 10, 15 minutes. But after that, even with people like Bishop Jakes, who preaches for 30, 40 minutes, after about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, dude, this is going too long. And I love them, and I love listening to them. But so that's not been an issue. But for me, I have not been used to standing in front of a camera intentionally thinking, all right, I have to pre-record this for this purpose. So that's a big major change for me.
Okay.
As a minister, is trying to mentally set myself up that I'm pre-recording a sermon and there's no one there in front of me I'm preaching to, but I'm preaching to a camera that's going out into the medium of social media.
Yeah.
Which was kind of difficult for me because, like I said, I'm not used to that. I usually prepare myself on Fridays or Thursdays. I'll stand in my pulpit and preach my sermon 3-4 times and memorize it, and then come Sunday morning, I'm just preaching it.
Yeah.
And then you have to accompany me. I'm one that I'm spiritually moved more. The better the music from my congregation and my choir. I feed off of that, and I'm able to deliver a message based on that, and to the congregation and what they're dealing with. So I had to change my mindset mentally also, because I had a sermon series that I was planning to preach before the coronavirus hit. So now I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. Even like with the Palm Sunday and the Easter Sunday, I changed my sermons. Those were not the two intended sermons that I had for Palm Sunday and Easter. It was different, and it was not related to the fact that we're dealing with the coronavirus. So I had to change the sermon to kind of help deal with what we're dealing with presently in the coronavirus. And so that's one of the reasons. And so I'm thinking for the remaining of this month, I already know that we're not going to be able to worship.
Yeah.
For Easter, the 19th to 26th. I'm not sure what's going to happen after the 26th. But I already know that for the remaining of April, I've got to try to figure out now what do I preach for the last 2 Sundays in April that can help my congregation and maybe reach out to the community or those that are connected socially through Facebook and stuff like that.
Okay. What was it like that first weekend not preaching in the pulpit? I know you spoke about it was the first one in so many years.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was, again, I've been doing this for 27 years. And it was, I think for the members, they felt lost. They felt detached. You know what I mean? Something like something was just yanked out from underneath them. Because they're so used to that traditional setting of congregating. For me, it was I think it was a little difficult at first. My first Sunday not being an actual normal traditional pulpit setting with your congregation members and a choir there.
Yeah.
It was just very weird. It just didn't seem it didn't seem normal, but of course, we're the church, not the campus.
Yeah.
We're just blessed to have a campus. God's blessed us with this campus. So, but for me, it was just extremely weird.
Yeah. Can you kind of reflect on Easter and what it's going to be like not preaching this Sunday?
It's going to be,
but on the bigger meaning of it a little bit too, just for you.
Yeah, let me think of. It is going to be.
And also, can you talk a little bit about how some pastors are actually going to hold church? And your thoughts on that?
In the United Methodist Church, we were already told not to have drive-in theaters.
Okay.
All right, we are not going to do anything to jeopardize our members.
Okay.
Period. We have already been informed of that. I am not going to do that. I feel for a lot of churches because I know that in the society that we're in right now, in this period of church history, a lot of churches are struggling just to make ends meet, even with the members that are active on campus. And for a lot of churches and a lot of ministers, if those people are not there, that money dries up. That money's not there. And I think they're struggling and they're scrambling, trying to find ways to remind their members, please send in your offering.
Yeah.
Please send in your tithes. The problem is that when you are separated from a facility like that, I think that's probably one of the things that most people don't think of, especially when you're losing your job.
Yeah, yeah.
And now your food intake is probably doubled at home because you got children home all day long versus sending them to school. So here for us, it's just again, I have a very committed, dedicated group of people who are in this church that are mailing their checks to the church. I don't preach. In 27 years, I do not preach about money. I just never have had to. I think it's a spiritual issue. I usually touch on that subject in the month of January, and then that's it. You'll never hear me about it. But this church is very committed to this church, and they're very dedicated to this church and to the body of this church. They support each other. Yeah. But for me, the only thing that's going to change for me in the celebration of Easter is not getting dressed up in a suit and tie, or Easter Sunday, I would wear a robe and stand in front of a group of people that are coming in. And, you have the cross with the chicken wire on it, then you put the flowers on. You have the Easter lilies, the decor. For me, the only thing that's going to be missing is the celebration of the decor. Yeah. That's usually interacted with the worship service. But as far as the worship and the spirituality of it, that's not going to change for me. My wife and I have already discussed this. Shannon and I were talking about this just the other day. What are we going to do for Easter Sunday? And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, where are we going to go? I said, well, we have several options. She said, well, what's that? I said, well, we can go to the kitchen. We can go to my study. We can go to the front porch. Choose your menu. And I'll get up in my pajamas and I'll cook us breakfast. And we can go out and sit on the front porch. But it's, so for me, spiritually, it won't change. Okay. It'll still be the day that Jesus rose from the grave. And, it's the day that we celebrate and honor our Lord Jesus Christ. The only difference is I'm not going to have to get up on Easter Sunday morning, get dressed, and go to church at 9 o'clock and be there from 9 till 1 o'clock. Yeah, yeah. You see what I'm saying? So sure. It's going to be for me. It's going to be a lot more relaxing. Okay. So the spirituality, I'll be able to. I've always enjoyed it on Sunday mornings, but for me, it's just a little bit more relaxing than normal because I won't be rushing to go to church and then sitting there and then preparing myself and dealing with any issues that are there prior and making sure everything is in alignment for the service. Even though my Easter, I said, so the other thing that's going to change for me is the aesthetics of the setting. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Okay, great. I had another question I wanted to ask you. A lot of people have lost their jobs and out of work, and small businesses are suffering. So we actually had we lost the owner of Marty's at Midday.
I saw that. Yeah. She was a member. She was a past member of the church.
Oh no, yeah. And I just wanted to ask you, if you have any message for people dealing with grief or going through that time.
I do. I wish I could just reach out to everybody, and I wish everybody would just at least be able to hear this. But to those that can hear, my prayers is that they are reminded they're not forgotten. In the situation that we're in now, we're praying for everyone in Athens. We're not just praying for our congregation and our members. Just recently, we reached out to one person in the community called us, and he was short on groceries, and he was not even a member of our congregation. And he asked if there's any way we can reach out and help him. In the middle of the month of March, he ran out of food, because he's not working. He wasn't used to that. So our church immediately jumped in place, and one of our members owns Bell's grocery store. So we arranged for him to be able to go get a gift card over there to buy him groceries for the remaining of the month of March. Wow. So we're reaching out. We're trying to do what we can in helping people in that area. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. Life is too enjoyable to give up hope. This is going to pass. This will pass. We'll get beyond this. We just have to stay strong and know that if you have a need, just pick up your phone or email our church. My cell phone is on my business cards. My email address is on that business card. our landline is connected to our administrative assistant at home. It goes straight to her cell phone. So if someone calls our church, we are literally answering that phone 24/7. And we are paying all of our staff presently, even if we take a dip in our offerings, we don't care. Every one of our staff members, including our nursery workers who's not even on campus, are going to get paid. We're going to take care of them. And so my only prayer for someone is don't give up hope. Hang in there. And if you need someone to talk to, and I just shared this with a friend with the Piedmont Hospital that they needed someone to start praying for them, and I sent them my email address. I said, just tell them, email me. I'll be glad to pray for them. But yeah, we're here. We can't do a lot, but between all of the churches in our community, I'm sure we can fill a void that someone needs. And don't hesitate to call. That's the only thing that I can say. It is difficult. I understand that. And just like with Marty's, the owner of Marty's restaurant, it was devastating to our church because everybody in this congregation they know that family. They've been part of this church for years. And my heart just went out to them about to help God. If somebody was maybe able to reach out to her, or she would have just taken a moment and reached out to somebody and not given up. Just don't give up hope. That's the only thing I can think of. Just don't give up hope. This too shall pass. Just hang in there.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks so much. Is there anything you would like to add that I didn't ask about? I don't know.
No, I tell you what, if you want to put my email address and say that Reverend Ortiz said if you want someone to pray with you, he would be glad and honored to pray with you. You can put my email address on there and let me give it to you.
Yeah, I think I have your card right here. Yeah.
And if there's anybody that needs anything, tell them to feel free to call the church number. And we'll do what we can. Okay? Yeah,
office number. Yeah, I'll put both of those in the story.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I thank you. But yeah, put my email address on there and the church phone number.
Yeah.
And say, Pastor Reverend Ortiz said if you need someone to pray with you, send them an email if you need anything, and we'll do whatever we can to help them with food or medication. Okay.
Great. Thanks so much, and have a great Easter.
All right. God bless you. Same to you, bud.
Thank you. Bye. That email is Louis.Ortiz, LUIS.ORTIZ @ngumc.net. And the office phone number is 706-543-2612. Yeah. When did you kind of know this was going to be bad?
Well, actually, when I noticed it was spreading in China, I had a feeling that it could come to the States. I didn't know the magnitude, obviously. But I think that when President Trump closed the transportation or flights from China, that also was a good indication that perhaps the fears was on the horizon.
Yeah. When did you know that you wouldn't be able to have church? And what was it like on that first Sunday where you weren't having church in your sanctuary?
Well, we had service. While there were some other churches who did not have a service.
Okay.
But we went ahead and had service, had a wonderful time. But then it was following that it was issued that they were asking people to kind of do the social distancing thing.
Yeah.
And many of the pastors had gotten calls from like Chief Spoon.
Yeah.
And Chief Spoon called and he was concerned, and he just wanted to make sure he wanted to know what we were doing. And when I told him that we weren't going to have service, he was relieved.
Okay.
So I think he called a lot of faith leaders to try to encourage them not to have a full gathering. So once that happened, we just needed to first pray and then strategize what we were going to do.
Yeah.
Because we did not have a social media ministry that streamed live.
Yeah.
So we came up with the solution to streamline. We'll try to keep it within 30 minutes, 45 minutes at the maximum.
Yeah.
We decided not to do it in a traditional AME way, or a traditional service. And we also decided to go ahead and record it on Saturday, because on Sunday there are a lot of people trying to access Zoom, access Facebook Live, all those other mediums, and actually the line can be busy. It can be hard to get on.
Okay.
Because so many people are trying to access things live.
Yeah.
So what we were able to do is to record it Saturday, and it automatically uploads on our Facebook page, on our website, and on YouTube.
Okay. What was it kind of like to not be in the pulpit on that first Sunday? Was that the first time you in your like ministry that you haven't been like preaching in a church on a Sunday, or?
Well, this will be our fourth Sunday. This will be our fourth Sunday, and so it's really, we're trying to, first of all, be true to Scripture.
Yeah.
All right, and I've been blessed that I've preached before one person and thousands. So it's a matter of now there's a camera, and that camera is a soul, and you're preaching, and it doesn't matter what physical presence might be surrounding you, because you're trying to convey a spiritual message to the people.
Yeah.
So you want to be true to the Bible, true to the Scriptures, and just trust God that God's word will not return to Him void. It will accomplish that which God seeks to accomplish.
Yeah. Great. How's it been for the congregation? Have people been reaching out to you, or how's it?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is what we're trying to do, and it's still evolving.
Yeah.
But we try to make sure that our class leaders call all of our members. Class leaders are simply, like categories, but they're members who are under a particular person who's responsible to check on their well-being.
Okay.
So we make sure that members are being called. We also send, I hope they're inspirational, they're intended to be inspirational.
Yeah.
Email to the membership to stay connected. So every week I'm sending at least one inspirational message to them. We do our calling post, again, to inspire and to, and so we've kept the communication line open in various ways. And the membership seem to really appreciate it. They really appreciate that they're able to view the service at home. Our Bible studies, for the most part, now on Zoom. We still use conference call, but the blessing is, and this is the unintended blessing, many people who did not think, and I'm talking about seniors now, older people, who did not think that they were able to handle technology, they found out that there are some aspects of technology that are your friend and not your foe.
Yeah, sure.
And that's been a blessing, because there were some people who didn't think they would be able to get on Zoom. Oh, I don't know anything about it. But when you walk them through it, and it was just taking less than a minute, oh, that was easy. And then now they're willing to teach other people how to do these simple tasks with technology. So that's a blessing.
Sure.
That was probably unintended, but a blessing nonetheless.
Great. What else here? I wanted to ask. There's some there's some churches that are going to hold service, just kind of against the health warnings.
Well, people have to do how they feel convicted, I imagine, but we've been asked not to have more than 10 gatherings, at a gathering, so we try to do that. I do believe in divine healing. I believe that God blesses us. I also believe that God has given us a good mind to exert wisdom. And so if there's a storming outside, I might want to go inside. If my car is empty, I might want to fill the gas. I do those things because it's in my best interest. So if there's a pandemic going around, it might be my best interest to take precautions of not exposing myself unnecessarily. And I would encourage all people to do that. But once again, I think people have to be convicted, their own convictions, because one side doesn't fit all, and we don't know everybody's circumstances.
Yeah.
But as for churches, I would encourage them to seek the Lord's face and do what's in the best interest of the people.
Yeah.
Do what's in the best interest of the people for the glory of God.
Yeah, great. Also, I wanted to ask, there's a lot of people that have lost their jobs, lost their health insurance, or maybe they're worried about their small business going under. Do you have a message for people that are going through grief and just this hard time that a lot of people are going through right now?
Well, it's been said before that things can make you better or bitter. And I want people to understand that's not just a cliche, because we are shaped by our choices. And oftentimes our choices are therefore by our mentality or our mental state. And so I would encourage people not to give up, not to give up. And it's a matter of us choosing to look at the blessing instead of looking at the curses, or focusing on the blessings instead of focusing on the supposed curses. So it's unfortunate that people will take their lives because of uncertainty. But again, the unintended blessing is that's part of what Easter and the resurrection is all about. No matter how bleak, no matter how barren, no matter how much you think you can make it, there's hope. Because if death could not keep us, our situation and our circumstances won't weigh him down either. He's more than able to conquer it. So we have to communicate that message, that you have to have a personal relationship with the Lord. And it's the Lord who will give you the insight, the wisdom, and the strength to do what needs to be done. But I do have my heart going out to people who are losing hope and are giving up. Easter is more than symbolic. It is the substance of why we can have hope and why we can face tomorrow.
Thanks. Great. Can you talk a little bit about what Easter's going to be like for you? Is this the first time you haven't preached on Easter, or like on the day in the pulpit in a while, or are you in years, or I'm not sure?
Well, basically, I'll be at the church.
Okay.
I'll be at the church. I still go to the church every Sunday, and I go there because I don't stay there all day.
Yeah.
But I'll stay there for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, in case somebody calls or somebody needs me for whatever reason. I just want to be there, and I go there, and I want to pray for people. All right, so we have an altar, of course, in our sanctuary, and so I can go and pray. But I still go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
We're just not having the corporate worship.
Yeah.
But that gives me time as well, though. Again, an unintended blessing that I'm able to view some of my friends, some of my colleagues' services.
Okay.
You know, and that does two things. First, it can give me inspiration, but it can also give me insight on maybe something that I need to do in my own services or in my own broadcast. So I'm still at the church, but it does afford me more time to view what other people are doing and how are they processing through this period.
Yeah. Great. That was pretty much my last question. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, I appreciate it, Joshua. The only thing I would say is I am so in a spiritual way. I'm proud. I want to make sure I'm spiritual because pride can be a deadly foe. But it's not the dangerous and the worldly kind of pride. It's the kind of pride that says that first AME, no, we can't do everything. We're trying to do some things. So, and that's why we continue with the Fruit Bank, because the Free African Society, I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but it's the precursor to the AME Church, the Free African Society. And in 1793, they stayed in Philadelphia to fight the yellow fever epidemic. People were fleeing, but the founder of the AME Church and others stayed to fight. And that's the spirit that we have as well. You know, we're going to stay and we're going to fight. We're going to serve the people as we can. Can we do everything? No, but we can do something. So we're already doing, we're trying to give our missionaries are doing things with Piedmont Hospital. We're trying to do things with St. Mary's, giving the doctors and the nurses in ER and other places some encouraging things. We're dealing with Family Promise to try to help them with the homeless. So I guess all I'm saying, Joshua, is this. That it gives us an opportunity to be true to who we are as Christian and as a denomination, and that is we serve. We serve. We believe in self-help. We believe in service, and we're powered by the Spirit. So I just wanted to say that I praise God for the opportunity for us in the midst of this pandemic to be servants. We can't do everything, but what we can do, we want to do.
Great. Thanks so much for talking to me and all the time you let me spend with you this week.
Well, thank you so much. And anything that we can do, Josh, please let us know. And, you know, as I said, this is a new season. I don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll ever be the same.
Yeah.
And that might be a good thing. Well,
thanks again for speaking with me, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, young man. And you take care. And I hope you watch the broadcast, too.
Definitely, yeah. I will check it out. Thanks so much.
Okay, take care of yourself.
Yeah, have a good one. When did you know that you weren't going to be able to hold church at the sanctuary?
The last service we held with people in the building was March 8th. And it was leading up to that Sunday that we realized that the question, it became a question, were we going to hold the services or not? And we ended up holding the service on the 8th, but then immediately after that decided that on the following Sunday, the 15th, that it was just not going to be smart. And I think that was about the same time as Mayor Gertz started the ordinance conversation, or I can't remember now. I know that they voted on the ordinance on Thursday or so, and I can't remember which Thursday that was. But it was clear that not having large groups of people together was a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what was it like that first Sunday not preaching at the church, and what was it like for your congregation, or what's it been like for your congregation?
Well, we already had quite a bit of technology in place. We had a camera in the sanctuary set up. We had a lot of AV equipment already because we use monitors in our service to display hymn lyrics and occasional other visuals. So we were pretty well prepared, but we had never done any online live streaming services, in part because of copyright concerns and not wanting to. Many of the songs that we sing are not common Christian songs, so that some of the common religious licenses don't really help us. So we hadn't done it, but we have one person in the congregation who's pretty technically savvy, and he jumped on the challenge of figuring out a way to go online. So that on the 15th we were ready to go. The music director, the pianist, the AV fellow, and myself were the only ones in the sanctuary doing the service. And it's a whole, I'm sure you've heard from other religious leaders that you've talked to, that there's a dialogue, even if it's an unspoken dialogue, between the preacher and the person in the pews hearing. And when you have no one to have that dialogue with, it's pretty strange. Because just like any performer, you feed off of the energy that's in the room, and you detect how things are being received, and so that's that sort of communication piece. And when you're preaching to empty chairs, it's different. It's difficult and different. Now I've done this 3 times since then, and each time is a little easier, and you play to the camera. And I now know that there are enough people watching. I mean, we've had as many as 100 people at least clicking on our Facebook page, and there are others that may be on other platforms. So I know people are seeing me, so they're seeing the service and are getting something out of it. So that is helpful in knowing that what you're doing is impacting somebody out there.
Have you heard from the congregation? How are they kind of dealing with this?
With the virtual services, or with the whole isolation?
With the isolation, mostly. Yeah.
I think they're doing pretty well. I can detect a little bit of anxiety just about the unknowns. But so far, knock on wood, there's no one that I know of in the fellowship that is sick or in the hospital or has died. So that's good. I think most people are doing a really good job of staying at home, or at least keeping physical distance. And we've provided something that we had never done before. We've provided daily activities. We've provided some morning meditation times, evening meditation times. Our choir director has put the choir online, and our drum circle can get together virtually. We have happy hour occasionally, plus some other small group meetings. So we've really totally transformed everything that we do into an online opportunity, because we don't want people to feel isolated. There are a lot of older people and a lot of people without family or live alone, and so we wanted to make sure that they were not feeling isolated.
Absolutely. And that was something I wanted to ask about. There's a lot of people that have lost their income, or maybe lost their health care, or they're maybe worried about their small business closing up. Do you have anything to kind of share about grief, and just a message to put out there for everybody? I don't know.
A message for people? Well, I guess my message is that, we're all in this together, and we will get through this together by doing what we're being asked by the experts, and by being willing to be flexible about how we live, and whatever strengths we appeal to and find helpful, that we need to connect with that, whether that's God, whether that's with some other sense of power or transcendent or internal, to help us maintain hope that this will end sooner rather than later, and that most people will come out the other side of it. And in grief, we just have to be together and recognize that this is what is, and we just have to be together and hope that love will carry us through.
Absolutely. What's Easter? What's this Easter going to be like? Is this the first Easter you haven't spent in a church, or?
Yes. I don't know how much you know about Unitarian Universalism, but we are a very liberal, some would say not even Christian tradition, because we don't typically believe in the divinity of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so Easter is a more symbolic holiday as opposed to a literal belief in the resurrection and salvation.
Yeah.
So for us, Easter is different in that it's very much of a rebirth and resurrection of all of our lives and the earth that's around us. And so we have a traditional ceremony that we do that's based on a Unitarian martyr who died in the 1400s. No, 50. No, he died during World War II. What am I saying? Who did a flower ceremony that was symbolic of community, and we usually have people bring a flower from their garden, representing their own participation in the community, and we do a flower exchange. And so we won't be able to do that this year because nobody can come in with their flowers. So I suggested that we contribute pictures of flowers from our home or gardens or around our neighborhoods. And so we've created a meditation video that put together all of our flower pictures, and so all of our people are represented in this flower meditation that we're going to be doing.
Great.
So it's very different, but for us, the absence of being together is not quite the same as for many Christians who believe in the literal resurrection.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add that I didn't ask about?
No, I think we appreciate just everybody doing their part and trying to support the doctors and nurses and all the people who are trying to help us manage this pandemic. It's great.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for your time and speaking with me.
You're welcome.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a great
Bye.
weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So when did you kind of know this was going to be a significant thing, or kind of it was going to be bad, basically?
I'm not sure. We've done 3 video worship services, so this will be our 4th.
Yeah.
So we made the decision prior to it being mandated.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of days before we decided to that we were, voluntarily decide not to meet and do it online instead.
Yeah. What was that like for the congregation and yourself? Just.
I think it was more the staff as we were talking about it. I talked to you a little bit about the transitions we've been in.
Yeah.
That we're an older congregation, and membership has been shrinking over the years, and so we're in the middle of, in addition to all the other decisions we're making, some of them are budgetary, and so I think the biggest issues that the staff and our leadership, even our lay leadership, were worried about is how are we going to pay our bills?
Yeah.
Because we have this big facility that it has, luckily it's paid off, but we have different groups that have been using our building, so we have to maintain it, and we have electricity we have to pay, and all that stuff that has to be taken care of. And so, some of our folks routinely have their contributions sent electronically, but
Yeah.
a lot of people don't. And so wondering how some of that was going to affect us was, I think, the unknowns of it. And being a traditional congregation, like I said earlier, that, we use hymnals and don't have screens in our sanctuary, we didn't know how our congregation was going to gravitate to using everything electronic and everything digital.
Yeah.
And once we made that decision and communicated to our lay leadership that if we did this, we were going to need them to help us in reaching out to each other and making sure that everybody was being contacted and felt that they were a part of a community, especially some of our older folks and our single folks. And they stepped up beyond what we could have imagined. It's been incredible. Just about everybody I call or I talk to tells me, I've already had 3 phone calls today from other church members. So it seems to be working really well, and we're part of what we were hoping to do in this transition period with us without a senior pastor was that we would refocus on building community and that, those small cliques or Sunday school classes that know each other would reach out and get to know other people in the sanctuary and in the congregation that they don't normally get together with or know well. And so that's happened. And so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Part of our thought now is, and I wonder how many other of my colleagues are going to think this way. People are so used to going to church in their pajamas and
no.
TV on Sunday morning. How readily are they going to go back the other way when all the requirements lessen a bit?
Yeah. What was it kind of like that first Sunday not preaching in the pulpit?
It was kind of really weird, actually.
Yeah.
And my daughter's sitting, we're in the car, and she's sitting beside me laughing because she knows when it gets to the point for me to get up and start doing my sermon, I leave the room because I don't like watching myself. I'm too critical.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Not going to watch yourself." I said, "I've heard this plenty of times. I don't need to see it again." Yeah, it's really kind of weird. But it's really kind of cool as well to be sitting there with my family experiencing worship, which usually we're spread all over the congregation because my wife is the organist, my daughter sings in the choir, and I'm preaching. So we never get to sit together anymore.
Yeah. How has it been for the community? Has people been reaching out to you, or what's it been?
They have, not as much as I thought they would, and I think the reason being is that they're reaching out to each other.
Okay.
And I've had a few people call that need to talk about things, but for the most part, they're taking care of each other, and they're more concerned about us and make sure we're not working too much and aren't too overstressed, which has been kind of nice to be able to hear from them. So I think they're doing quite well.
Great.
We have a couple of folks, I talked a little bit about this too when we were together, that don't do technology, and so they're not able to watch the worship services on Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
But some cool stories have come out of that. One of our members, actually, we've got a retired principal that never married, that's in our congregation, and so she doesn't have any family. Her health is poor, and so she's basically trapped in her home.
Mm-hmm.
But and she has no technology. She doesn't have a cell phone. She's got a TV, but no internet at all.
Yeah.
And wouldn't know how to use it if she had it. Well, every Sunday morning when our worship services go live, another member calls her and gives her a play-by-play of everything that's happening in the service.
Great.
It's really been kind of funny. And she goes, I called her and I said, "Do you need some DVDs?" "Well, you can bring them. But Joan calls me every week and gives me the whole rundown of everything that's happening." So
Awesome. Yeah. Great. What do you think this Easter? How's this Easter going to be for you, like you and your family and the congregation? What do you think it's going to be like?
I don't know. I'm planning to call some folks, especially those that don't have family around, just to check in with them and make sure they're okay. it's going to be really weird. I've been in church my whole life, and I don't know that there's ever been an Easter that I didn't go to church. And it's just a huge part of who we are, part of our identity. And so I think that's the way it is for most of our members. And even those peripheral folks who only come on special occasions, Easter is one of those special occasions, and everybody goes to church. And so it's going to be kind of odd to experience that, I think.
Definitely. Do you have any thoughts on the churches around the nation that are going to be holding service, just kind of against what everyone's recommending, or?
Well, I guess to be most honest, I think it's kind of nuts. Even those who say they're doing it for faith, I'm glad you have faith, but don't be stupid.
Yeah.
You're not just putting yourself and your members at risk; you're putting everybody at risk by doing that. And I really don't understand it. I've read a lot of the little articles and blurbs on both sides. I try to keep my mind expanded and not just reading things that I agree with all the time.
Yeah.
But I cannot understand their arguments and their reasoning. It just absolutely makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. Then I wanted to touch on something. There's a lot of people that have lost their employment or health insurance, and maybe their business they're worried about their business and stuff. Do you have any message for people dealing with grief and just kind of going through that right now that you would want to share?
Well, and I think that's where I'm going with after you left this morning, I went upstairs and recorded my sermon for Sunday, and I think that's the message of Easter. I think to me, especially in this time period, is that even in the darkest times, in the darkest days, in the middle of our grief or our pain or anxiety, there is hope.
Yeah.
And yet, whether you're Jewish and experiencing Passover, I was listening to a Jewish rabbi the other day who was saying that the message of Passover, one of the biggest and loudest messages of Passover, is that even in the darkest days, there is hope, and a light will shine. And that's true for us as Christians, that no matter what's going on in life, there is always hope and a glimmer of hope there if we choose to look up and see it. And I think that, and for us as fellow believers who seek to follow Jesus, it is our task to reach out to others who are in those dark places and show them some light.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything you would want to add that I didn't ask about?
I don't think so.
Okay.
One thing that I've really found, and especially on social media, is there are a lot of ministers that I never really connected with before. I mean, I know them, but I really don't communicate with them. But there are a lot of groups out there on Facebook and little social networks you can be a part of that are helping one another learn how to do this. There's a online webinar next week on how to preach to a camera.
Yeah.
How do you do this? How do you record it? How do you figure all this stuff out? When I went to seminary, this didn't exist at all. Some churches may have cameras and record their services, but it was few and far between, and they didn't teach how to do that. Yeah. And so, for congregations like ours that don't have anybody that's technically minded like that, it's really hard to figure this stuff out. And to keep your spirits high, because those of us who do a lot of public speaking, we feed off the energy of the audience, and if that's not there, it's just really a weird experience to be talking to a camera.
Yeah. Great. Well, that was pretty much what I wanted to touch on everything. But thanks so much for speaking with me and the photo. I think
you're so welcome.
Okay. Yeah. So when did you kind of know this was going to be a significant thing and like be bad?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I
Or just kind of reflect on like that those weeks leading up to like kind of
yeah,
finding out you weren't going to have
you know,
service.
I don't think I had any greater insight or foresight more than anyone else. Um, um, I of course was aware of the pandemic in China and then in Italy and other parts of Europe. I'm not sure it really sunk in with me though until probably the second week of March or something like that. And I know that even and I don't have my calendar right in front of me, but we've probably been doing we probably stopped doing gatherings for worship at least 5 weeks ago now.
Okay. Wow.
But I think it was really only a few days before we stopped gathering that we made the decision not to gather in any way. I know we thought about, are there ways that we might gather outdoors, with appropriate social distancing and all of that. So, I think it really wasn't that long ago that I was still imagining that there might be ways that we could dial down our gatherings, and evening programs and other things, but I think it didn't really sink in as far as the severity of the pandemic goes until just a few days before we just made the decision. And it wasn't just me, by the way. The way our church works, we have a governing council called the session, and the session really ultimately makes the decisions here. I work at their pleasure, really. Yeah. But together with the session, we
is that a local church body, or is that like a council of bishops or something similar?
No, yeah. Presbyterian Church doesn't have any bishops. We're not hierarchical that way. We're very democratic in the sense that we elect our leaders and representatives from the congregation. Okay. We are part of a larger body. We're part of the Presbyterian Church USA, a national denomination, and then we have we're part of a presbytery, which is regional, and we're part of the Northeast Georgia Presbytery, which is made up of about 55 congregations in Northeast Georgia. But the decisions about how we worship are all left to our session here at this congregation. Okay. And so, we didn't have a bishop or anyone else telling us, giving us direction on whether or not to remain open. Yeah. That was a decision we made together here. Okay.
What was?
And it wasn't easy. I mean, as you might imagine.
Yeah. What was it like that first Sunday not being together in the sanctuary, and like for you and the congregation, if you've had people reach out to you about that?
Right. It was incredibly strange. On the one hand, so grateful for technology, along with people who know how to use it better than me, that we were able to put together a service that we then decided to post on YouTube, and that's what we've done. Yeah. Members of our congregation can access it through Facebook, but we've, rather than live streaming or some of the other ways other congregations have chosen to worship together during this time, we've we have decided to do recordings of the service a few days in advance and then put them on YouTube. But that first Sunday was really odd and very, very low tech. All we used was, I think, an iPad, and just kind of set that up and then had a very much a skeleton crew of us to come in and record it. Really, I guess as I'm thinking about it, it was really the morning, that Sunday morning. We kind of walked through it late Saturday afternoon, and then came in early Sunday morning, that first Sunday, and recorded. And that was at least for some of us, me especially, that was pretty stressful because we're not a high tech congregation. We don't normally tape or broadcast the services, and so shifting from in person, face to face gathering to kind of talking into a computer was a little unsettling, but we were able to do it, and then over the last few weeks we've been able to enlist some folks in our congregation who really have some real gift with sound technology and camera work and all of that, and they've been wonderful and have come in and helped us do I think a better job of recording. But it's tricky, because we're trying to take care of ourselves and be safe and practice social distancing. So there usually no more than about 5 or 6 of us in the sanctuary at one time. We're all kind of spread out. But that's what we've been doing, and
yeah. How has it been for the congregation? Have you had people reaching out to you more than normal, or?
I'm spending a lot of, and my colleague Rindy is also doing this, spending quite a bit of time on the phone.
Okay.
And with people, we're doing a lot of kind of pastoral care by email and texting, some Facebook messaging. It just sort of depends on what people are comfortable with. But we one of the things we did, and was to set up a phone tree. So members, we have a congregational care team, and members of that team each have taken on reaching out and calling, a portion of our membership list, just checking in on people, seeing how they're doing. It's been difficult as far as not being able to visit people in person or in the hospital. We've had several people dealing with serious issues in the hospital, and as you probably know, our local hospitals, and for very good reason, aren't really allowing clergy to come in.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good idea, but it sure is counterintuitive for a lot of us. So, we're learning to deal with it.
Yeah.
As best we can.
Great. Speaking of that, I wanted to. I've asked everybody or everyone I've interviewed for this piece about this. There's a lot of people that are out of work or lost their job, lost their health insurance, or maybe they're worried about their business kind of closing up, and they're. I just wanted to. Do you have a message for everybody that's dealing with all this grief right now, or?
Oh gosh. Well, it is real for one thing, and I think we do have members of this congregation that are struggling economically, financially right now, and then of course lots of neighbors, as you saw when you were here yesterday, who really are needing help with food. They're food insecure. So, and we're getting a lot of requests for help with utility bill payments and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sense of vulnerability and grief, I think that's a good word. It's real, and so as a church, we want to acknowledge that, and I think it would be a disservice to try and gloss over it and tell people, well, everything's going to get better real soon. I wish that were true. My impression is that we're going to be struggling through this for quite some time to come. For me, I find hope in knowing that, or in my belief that we are the people of a God who also knows suffering and grief. You and I are talking today on Good Friday, which in our tradition is a day we remember the crucifixion of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something powerful and strangely reassuring in our faith in a God who suffers with us, and a God who promises not to abandon us, even when times are tough. So, and that's a belief, surely we share with our Jewish brothers and sisters and many other faith traditions. But we have, these incredible stories about a God who travels with us and sojourns with us and literally knows what it means to be hungry and thirsty. This is the God, though, that we also trust will enable us to get into a better place and a better day. We trust that God is with us. Now, I'll say this, I think as a church, we believe that we are the body of Christ, and so we need, as best we can, and it's really challenging in these days of sheltering in place, we need to be offering whatever gifts and resources we can to alleviate the suffering and grief that people are feeling. So we're trying to do that the best way we can through reaching out in conversation with people by phone and text, but also through our food pantry and the financial assistance we're able to offer. So
Great. Yeah, I just got two more questions. What is Easter going to be like? Is this the first time you haven't spent Easter in a sanctuary in a long time, or I imagine? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's strange. We just recorded our Easter service today.
Okay.
So, Covenant has a tradition of holding an Easter sunrise service outside. We have an outdoor worship area behind the building.
Yeah.
And I think, so many of us, all of us, are really going to be missing that this year. I've been here about 15 years, and I think only once in those 15 years have we not been able to gather outdoors, and that year it was because of rain,
Yeah.
So it is. It's so very strange not to be together, worshiping together, and then sharing breakfast together like we usually do. But I think Easter was an unexpected day for the first church too. So maybe we're experiencing a little bit of what they experienced, and we hope and trust that God will be present with us in new ways this year, even if they're not the ways we're used to.
Great. And then I just wanted to ask, there are some churches that are planning to have service. I don't know in a local community, but around the country. And is there any comments you have for that?
Sure. Well, I sure understand their need to do that. I think we all have that same desire. I wish they would not. I think it's a bad decision to gather. I'm aware that they are, probably doing so out of a deep sense of faith. But at the core of our faith is the call to love God and to love our neighbors. And I think under the current circumstances of the coronavirus, the very best way that we can love our neighbors and ourselves is to stay sheltered in place, to not gather together, just because we really are potentially a danger to one another. So I think the most loving thing we can do is not to gather this Easter.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I never would have imagined myself saying that, but I really do believe that that's the best wisdom we can offer, and the best way we can love one another this year. So, I would urge all my other brothers and sisters who are thinking about doing that to really to reconsider that. I mean, God gives us grace and incredible gifts, and I think one of the gifts God gives us is intelligence and the use of our brains, and we're not asked to check those at the door. So
yeah.
I hope people will stay home.
Great. Is there anything I didn't ask that you wanted to add?
No, but I appreciate very much your interest in us and what we're doing, and the great gift you're offering the community in reporting these stories.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to do the best I can over here.
Well, thank you.
Definitely.
We are appreciative, and you're just doing terrific work, and we thank you.
Thanks so much.